I went and I took these classes and I thought, oh my goodness, if they can teach yoga, then I can teach yoga. And I thought, I'm gonna go to yoga teacher training. There were times where we didn't know where the rent was coming from. We lost a home. We had to file bankruptcy. I mean, you can always think about reasons not to do something, but sometimes it's just good to say yes and just show up and do the best you can do. My passion is to bring yoga classes to as many people as possible, and the reason is because yoga has helped me in my life so much. When I was younger, I was very shy and I had a hard time connecting with people and sort of had difficulty growing up. Low self-esteem, didn't really feel very good about myself at all, and because of that, I think I turned to drugs and alcohol, and that was a way for me to kind of numb the pain of not feeling good about myself. So after about probably 10 years of that and plenty of situations that were not fun, I stopped, I got some help, and I began living my life without drinking and using any kind of drugs. But I was still kind of feeling low self-esteem, not feeling really good about myself. So it was a long journey, I think, to get back to feeling like I'm a good person. And so a big part of that is the yoga practice. And because it sort of really brought me back from a really dark place, I feel that the yoga practice can help with so many situations for people. Everybody has a really wonderful self, and many of us don't realize the potential that we have. So it is my passion to help people connect with that best self, that wonderful self, that amazing self that we all carry within us. I got started in yoga, it was probably it was 1999 or the year 2000. And I had, like I said, I had stopped drinking, and but I was still kind of depressed. So I heard also that yoga is a good way to help with meditation, because I heard that meditation is a good way to help me to feel better about myself, to help with depression. I was always struggling with depression and, like I said, low self-esteem. So I heard that meditation is a really good way to help with that. But I tried to sit and meditate, and it was a disaster. I couldn't do it. My mind would just constantly chatter at me. I just couldn't relax for a moment. I think that before I started yoga, I was so type A because I just, like I said, had so much self-doubt and even self-shame that I felt like I had to prove myself always. So I was the kind of person that would work. I had a job where I was working in the corporate world, and I thought that if I did really well in my job and made a lot of money, then I would feel okay about myself. However, I started making decent money and I was doing pretty well at my job, and it wasn't fixing it. So I heard about how meditation can help, and like I said, I was having a really hard time meditating. So I heard that yoga helps with meditation, and I went to a yoga class. The first class I went to was a hot yoga class, the Bikram style. And I know a lot of people like that, but it wasn't for me. I don't like that much heat, and I didn't feel good. So I was really disappointed actually after that first class, because I thought, oh no, this is yoga and I don't like it, and so what am I going to do now? And then I found that there were other types of yoga to practice. So I found a vinyasa flow type. It was also based on the Ashtanga tradition. And so it was really vigorous, really vigorous flow. So when I was finished with the practice after an hour and a half of practicing, I was a sweaty mess and I was just kind of exhausted. So when we got to the last posture, Shavasana, it was the first time I can remember in a really long time being able to just lie still and be present, and my mind was quiet. And for me, that was amazing. When I moved down to Orange County and I first started going to yoga classes, I didn't find the teachers that were like, wow, these teachers are really great. There are really awesome teachers in Orange County. It just happened that I didn't find them right away. And I think that for me was kind of a gift, because I thought, which sounds kind of ridiculous in a way, but this is what happened. I went and I took these classes and I thought, oh my goodness, if they can teach yoga, then I can teach yoga. And I thought, I'm going to go to yoga teacher training and I'm going to become a yoga teacher because I love yoga. And because of the experience, like I said, that I've had with yoga and how much it helped me, I really wanted to share that. I learned so much from that teacher training. But the first time when I did it for myself, the very first time I got my 200-hour teacher training certificate, when I finished, I really didn't know anything. I felt like I can't teach anything. I don't know how to do this at all. But I wanted to teach, so I started teaching classes that I mostly taught in corporations. And in corporations, it was a wonderful place to start because I came from the corporate world. I know what it's like to sit at a desk and type and be in one position all day long, and how, it can hurt your neck and your back, and you get really tight hamstrings and your hip flexors get really shortened and your low back really starts to arch. And I realized that this is where I could help people. Plus, they had never done yoga before, so they had no idea if I was a good yoga teacher or not. So it was perfect for me. And then after that, I started teaching more classes at the studio. And then I took an Ashtanga teacher training, and then I took the 300-hour professional program with YogaWorks, the training. And it was expensive. If you've ever looked into teacher training, it's, you have to come up with a fair amount of money to do it. And so I actually made payments during my 300-hour training, and I owed them money. And so the person who was in charge of the teacher training for YogaWorks said, we're looking for people to assist teacher trainings. Would you like to do that? And we'll actually pay you some money, and then you can pay us back what you owe us. And so I started becoming a teacher trainer. And I think with that confidence that I got from becoming a teacher trainer, that sort of led me to be able to teach the classes on YouTube. Because I felt that I had something to offer, that I knew how to teach yoga. And this was, I had been teaching probably another 5 years or so before I started putting YouTube videos up. So I had been teaching a while, and I didn't actually start making videos for YouTube with the idea of like, oh, we're going to make YouTube videos and we're going to put them out for everybody and it's going to be awesome. I didn't have that idea at all. What happened was my husband got a new camera, and so he wanted to practice using the camera. So he said, can we go over to Pacific Ashtanga, where is one of the places where I teach? Can we go over there and I can film you doing yoga? And I said, sure, it's just a way for him to practice. So we did a class and we put it up on YouTube, and we completely forgot about it. And then maybe 6 months later, we did another class and we put it up again and forgot about it. Then my husband said, those videos that we put up are getting a fair amount of views. And I was like, oh, well, that's neat. And then maybe 6 months after that, I was talking to a woman that does more work with yoga teachers. And I said, we have these YouTube classes, but we have no idea what to do with them. And she said, well, I started partnering with another company, and we're putting together like a whole network of yoga teachers. And so all you have to do is commit to put up a class every week. And I was like, we could do that. And so we just started doing that. And that's how the YouTube channel just started to grow because we consistently put up new content every week. And then people were starting to comment on the videos. And at first I didn't know about commenting or anything, so I didn't answer. And then my husband said, you need to answer these comments. And so I said, yeah, okay. So we started answering comments. And it was quite amazing the way I began to connect with people that were practicing the classes. And not only that, but the people who were practicing were connecting with other people who were practicing the classes. And I started getting these beautiful messages from people all around the world about how these yoga classes had changed them, had helped them to feel better, had helped with their physical problems, their emotional problems, helped with, so many messages from people who said wonderful things about what the yoga had done for them, that I knew that I had to continue it. Probably the part in my life that changed me the most was when I decided that I couldn't drink alcohol anymore. Um, that was a really dark time for me, and it did absolutely change my life because it put me on a spiritual path. I realized that if I was going to continue doing what I was doing, I was going to continue a downward spiral. And that continuation of feeling really badly about myself, not taking care of myself, not caring really a lot of times if I lived or died. So it was a big turning point for me to have that hope that I didn't have to live that way anymore. And it was really because of that change in my life, which was like 21 years ago now. Because of that change in my life brought everything good that's good in my life today. My marriage, my kids, yoga, all of it. I wouldn't have any of this if it weren't for that turning point. Oh my goodness. I've had a lot of situations where it looked like it wasn't going to work out. And I have a really dear friend of mine who is kind of like a mentor to me, and she really encouraged me along the way. And I would say to her, I don't think that this is going to work out, because I was trying to support our family of 4 in Southern California on a yoga teacher salary. And I was making like $30 a class, and it's not very much money to live on. And so I was telling my friend about it, and she said, Lesley, she said, I don't care what you need to do. I don't care if you and your entire family need to live out of your car. You're meant to do this. This is what you're meant to do. And so there were times where we didn't know where the rent was coming from. We lost a home we owned when we lived in San Francisco. We lost a home. We had to file bankruptcy. We were living off of some food stamps for part of the time, like from the government, because we couldn't afford to eat. But we just knew that this was what I was supposed to be doing. So, we just kept moving forward. Yoga's absolutely changed my life. I think that I still struggle. I still struggle with life because life is not easy. I still, sometimes doubt myself. I still sometimes think, maybe I'm not good enough at this or that, or, sometimes it happens. But for the most part, I don't. I doubt myself sometimes, but nowhere near the way I used to. I used to just constantly beat myself up. I used to tell myself that, I wasn't good enough and why bother, and all kinds of terrible things. And I learned, I can't remember exactly where I heard it the first time, but I just thought it was amazing. I heard somebody say, if you wouldn't say that to your best friend, you can't say it to yourself. So I started implementing that, and I started, whenever I started talking to myself badly, I would just stop myself and say, oh, I wouldn't say that to my best friend. I would never, ever talk to anybody else like that, really. So I started changing the way that I talk to myself. And that was all as a result of being present and noticing these things. And that directly comes from my yoga. I think that if you can breathe, you can be good at yoga, because yoga is not about the posture. I mean, there's I think a lot of people think like, oh, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible. Or I can't do yoga because I can't, wrap my foot around my head. But yoga isn't that. Yoga is really that connection with our breath. And as we move that breath through our bodies and we take longer inhales and exhales, it really helps us to, again, be present and to just be. If we can get our foot behind our head, cool, it's great for parties, but it's not really what yoga is. Yoga is about showing up and doing the best that we can do at that time. And it doesn't matter if, like I said, it doesn't matter how strong I am. It doesn't matter how flexible I am. I just show up and I do the best that I can, focusing on lengthening my breath. And then I try to coordinate my breath and my movement. And that's really what it is. And anybody can do that. Well, I think that get a yoga mat. And it doesn't really matter that much what kind of yoga mat, as long as you're not slipping on it. And then go to YouTube and open up our beginners playlist and start with one of the beginners classes. And it might not go perfectly. It might be difficult. It might be hard. It's not supposed to be perfect. Push pause if you need to push pause. Rest if you need to rest. Always, always, always listen to your body. If you get any pain any place, stop immediately. Just pay attention. Be present. Just notice what's happening and breathe. And then the poses will come and then the poses will go. And you'll just continue on your breath practice to the best of your ability. And I think that, some people get really caught up in what it's supposed to look like and, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. Well, focus on what we can do. That's the most important. And be gentle on yourself. Be good to yourself. I mean, you can always think about reasons not to do something, but sometimes it's just good to say yes and just show up and do the best you can do. When I get away from my mat and I'm having a hard time getting back, sometimes I just roll out that mat and I say, I'm going to do one sun salutation. That's it. I'm just going to do one sun salutation. And sometimes that's it for that day. But more often than not, I continue on and I practice, for a good 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. Just depends on how it feels. Whatever your passion is, if you have a passion, not everybody does. So just be grateful to have one. And if you find that you have a passion, you got to do it. You have to. Because if you don't, you will wonder, what if? And you don't want to be going through life thinking about what if. And it's never too late to start. You can start any time. As long as you're still breathing, you can start. So I do believe strongly that, if you love doing something, you should do it. And yeah, you're going to have to figure out a way to make it work. And it's not going to be easy, but if it's worth having, it's never easy. There's always work involved, and you'll fail. There's a lot of failure. That doesn't matter either. You just get yourself back up, dust yourself off, and continue.